Wow, that was some week 6 football yesterday, huh?
Yeah, that was crazy. Another round of injuries. It's getting kind of old, every Monday we get together and we're talking about the injuries and it's the list of injuries is getting longer and longer, I feel like each week.
It really is. Luckily, this is our episode about waiver wire pickups, so we'll chat those injuries, but we also chat who you could be looking for instead since some of those injuries were pretty bad and we've lost a couple more people for the rest of the season. We also have 2 teams on bye this week. Bears and Cowboys are on bye this week. I think the Cowboys are
Cowboys.
going to be grateful to be on bye and have a rest after yesterday's game.
Yeah, they need that bye. They need to go figure out something, maybe hire a new coach. I don't know, but that was just a disaster. The coaching was horrendous. I couldn't believe they didn't make any changes, it seemed, at halftime. So they weren't trying to do anything different. And Dak was just holding the ball forever. He wasn't trying to get it out quickly. Hopefully, they figure out
I
something during the bye. So before we jump into the waiver wires, I had a couple questions. So, does anyone ever propose a trade in any of your leagues?
I've never experienced that. I haven't proposed trades.
And why not? Why don't people propose trades? And if you're listening to this, I'm curious. Leave us a comment and tell us why you don't participate in trades. Because it's a great way to strengthen your team, but almost every trade I've ever proposed has gotten the owner has said no to. And it's not like I'm out there trying to, get an advantage over that team. I'm just trying to strengthen both of our teams. And I always propose something that I think is fair, but they never get accepted.
I wonder if if there's some there is a tie to that player that you're proposing for that like, "Oh, no, I drafted them for this reason," and they're not quite willing to let that go yet.
I think so. But you need to be ready to make your team better at any moment, just like the NFL teams are as well. So we'll jump into waiver wires. Another thing that we're going to do a different video on is learning how to stack your waiver wire requests. So if there's a particular player or you're carrying too many defenses on your roster and you want to target getting rid of that player, I don't think that's done a lot in waiver wire requests to stack it. So you if you don't get your first choice, you can get your second choice, you can get your third choice, and we'll be making a separate video on how to do that on different systems. So are you ready to jump into who is available and who might be able to help out your team?
Yeah, let's kick it off with wide receivers.
All right, we're jumping right in. Wide receivers. So, the ever revolving carousel of Green Bay Packers wide receivers. I'm pretty sure last week or the week before we were recommending uh, Dontavian Wicks. And now Wicks and Jayden Reed both suffered injuries over this weekend. And in a surprise move, Christian Watson jumped back into the game on Sunday. We weren't really expecting him to be ready to come back. And he was active and he played and he had a great game. So now he may be available on some of your leagues. He's about 59% available, and Romeo Doubs is about 65% available. So if we've got Jayden Reed and Dontavian Wicks out, then you can target the other two Green Bay Packer wide receivers. Now, just note that they keep like rotating their injuries, and so it may only be for a few weeks, but it's great to have them. And they've got Houston and Jacksonville and Detroit as their next 3 games. So I love that. And 2 of those games, they're going to be passing, and they seem to like to pass anyway. And that running game's not really going anywhere for them. So I like both targeting both of these wide receivers, assuming they can stay healthy.
There's also Demario Douglas with the New England Patriots, who I think is 93% available.
He is. And this was so exciting over the weekend to have hope again for New England and have Drake May. I'm so glad that the Jacoby Brissett experiment is over. And I don't really understand why we had to suffer through 5 weeks of watching Jacoby Brissett. Did you know that Drake May already has more touchdowns than Jacoby Brissett did in the first 5 weeks? Yeah. So their next
That's a
appointment.
really good sign then for their wide receivers.
It is. It definitely is. And Demario Douglas he was stepping up kind of the whole season being their top wide receiver, but now he just had a huge upgrade at quarterback. So he can actually perform because he's got somebody real throwing him the ball. Their next appointments. Their next opponents are Jacksonville, the Jets, and Tennessee. So nothing too hard, but they're not too good either. But they ought to be able to do something pretty decent against at least two of those. The Jets worry me a little bit. I'm going to see what the Jets have got against Buffalo a little bit later tonight. Kind of interested to see how that goes for them. But Demario Douglas has had 9 targets in each of the last 2 weeks. So I think he's an excellent pickup and see what you can get out of him, especially if you're dealing with some of these season ending injuries. What have you got to lose?
And his next game will be over in Europe against
It is.
Jacksonville, you
I
said.
keep forgetting that. Yeah, he's playing Jacksonville's staying in London, and they're gonna play over there again, and New England gets to travel and play the Jaguars over there. We once again get football for breakfast on Sunday morning, which caught some of us a little by surprise, even though we spent all week talking about it. It was still, "Oh, wow, we've got football at 9:30," and it was a long day this time. Last week it was kind of exciting, and this week I'm like, "Really? We're gonna do this again for, like, 14 hours?"
I may have forgotten to make one pick weekend.
Which is funny since all we do is talk about it. It gets lost. So another wide receiver option is JuJu Smith-Schuster with Kansas City Chiefs. He's 69% available, and what I like about JuJu and the Green Bay wide receivers, if I can pick up a wide receiver 1 on a winning team, I prefer that much to the losing situation because they're gonna be competitive, they're gonna be passing, the Chiefs are gonna be passing. And Rashee Rice and Marquise Brown are gone for the season, both of them, and that's just left the wide receivers in flux for the Kansas City Chiefs. JuJu came in as a backup, having a reunion with Kareem Hunt on the Kansas City Chiefs roster, and he was just thrown into it, and he performed. So the only other wide receiver really there is Xavier Worthy. We did see Travis Kelce step up in there, but then the Chiefs have had a bye week, so JuJu's been able to take a week off and spend some more time integrating into that team. I think this is going to be really good for JuJu Smith-Schuster, and I like this. Their next opponents are the San Francisco 49ers. That's in San Francisco, so not in love with that matchup, but I don't really know what's going on with the 49ers, and they haven't been nearly as scary as we thought they were. And then they get the Raiders in Las Vegas, and then they get Tampa Bay. And that just seems like a score fest. If you watched the Tampa Bay and New Orleans game yesterday, how many points do we have? It was 51-27. So we would maybe hope for more in a Kansas City and Tampa Bay matchup. That's going to be fun.
And one of the things I really like about the JuJu Smith-Schuster option is it's rare that you are picking someone up off the waiver wire who is going to be there for the rest of the season. And this one is more likely to be there unless he gets injured, unlike other ones where if people come back because their injuries get better. Unfortunately, Rashee Rice and Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown they're not coming back this season.
Yeah. So it's JuJu's to take. It should be fun to watch, and I'm excited about that. We have one more wide receiver
we have
to
one
mention.
more.
Yeah. We've talked about him before. Xavier Leggett with the Carolina Panthers. Again, we're back to a losing team. He's 81% available. We've been a fan of Xavier Leggett as a wide receiver. He's fun to watch. He's a big guy. But he's had his ups and down games, and sometimes he performs and sometimes that he doesn't. But it's who they have coming up that makes me super interested in Xavier Leggett. And that is this week they get to play the Washington Commanders, who have been giving up a ton of points to the wide receivers. So I love that. After that, it's Denver and Denver, not super great. And then New Orleans. Again, we're back to that New Orleans game and how much they gave up to Baker Mayfield. So even if Andy Dalton's throwing, interceptions, Xavier Leggett still should have plenty of opportunities.
So what about running backs? You got any recommendations here?
Running backs are hard this week. I don't love the matchups for anyone, but we've got a few for you. So if you're in need of a running back, I loved watching Sean Tucker yesterday for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's 99% available. The situation's kind of muddled there because they've got White that is out, and then Bucky Irving was playing yesterday, but Sean Tucker had a great day. Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker both had 14 carries, but Sean Tucker was the number one running back before tonight's game for this week. He racked up 35.7 FanDuel points. So that's a lot of points. And that's why we have to mention him, because he was just completely crazy explosive in that blowout game with the Saints yesterday. But the Bucs were doing whatever they wanted to do. And if Rachaad White comes back, I don't know how three of them are going to be in the mix. So we have to watch that. And are we just chasing after the high score? Could be, but there are worse things to do. And if you've got that open bench spot, then why not pick them up and see what happens? Their next opponents, I don't love this. I think I mentioned I don't love the opponents of any of these. Next up, they've got Baltimore, then they've got Atlanta, and then they've got Kansas City. So those running backs are tough. Tampa Bay is going to have a tough 3-game stretch.
What about one that we mentioned last week, Ty Chandler?
We did mention Ty Chandler, and Minnesota was on their bye week last week. He's 73% available. And hey, the Vikings are unbeaten. So if you want, one of those winning teams, here's the great running back opportunity. In week 5, Aaron Jones suffered a hip injury when they were over in London. And even if Jones plays, I think we're going to see more of Ty Chandler. Take some of the pressure off of Aaron Jones, and he was more explosive than Aaron Jones as well. He had 2 big plays called back, so his stat lines don't quite look that impressive. I think he's got 5 points listed for last week, so it was kind of sad. But if you watch the game, he played much better than his statistics showed. Here's the thing. So the next opponents again. He plays the Vikings play Detroit this week. Sounds great, but are they going to be able to run? Or are they going to need to be able to pass? They're going to try to run it. I'm sure you're always going to try to establish the run, but I don't know if they get in a down situation, they may have to abandon that run plan and start chucking the ball down the field. And I feel like a high likelihood. Detroit's so motivated and looks so good. Next up after that, they've got the Los Angeles Rams. Not too bad. And then they get the Indianapolis Colts. So if you are planning ahead 3 games, I like the Colts for sure. The Rams are not that bad matchup either. It's just this week and getting past Detroit and needing to.
And I think on the New York Giants, there was a new rookie with Devin Singletary being out.
Yeah, so this is the second week we've seen Tyrone Tracy for the New York Giants. He's 55% available because people were picking him up last week with Singletary out. Singletary sidelined with a groin injury. Not really sure when he's going to be back. Kind of thought he was going to be back this week, but it didn't happen. And again, I think we'll see more of a share even when he does come back to try to take some of that pressure off and not re-injure Singletary. So we still expect Tracy to get some work. I loved the game against Cincinnati because he only had 50 rushing yards, but he also was involved on the passing side and had 6 receptions, which really pumped up his fantasy numbers. So if you're in a PPR league, I do like the Tracy ad. His next opponents, Philadelphia. I don't know what to think about Philadelphia. Are they as bad as Cleveland? That game was just painful to watch. And I'm excited about the Philadelphia matchup because we have the Giants and Philadelphia playing again, and it's Saquon Barkley coming back to play the Giants in his revenge game. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. Giants are going to need all the help they can get. After that, they go up against Pittsburgh, and then week 3, and here in a few weeks, we've got some really great matchups. They get to play Washington. So we've got one last running back. That's Isaac Guerendo for the 49ers. And we saw Jordan Mason go out last week during that game with a shoulder injury. And Guerendo came in. He's a great stash away to see what's going to happen there. He's a rookie from Louisville, and he came into the game, rushed for 99 yards, looked very explosive. People are talking about Christian McCaffrey coming back. So I don't know about you, but I don't have any radar going off that McCaffrey's coming back this season. So I'm not buying any of that, oh, McCaffrey's coming back stuff. But Jordan Mason's probably only out a week or two, but I think we'll still see a pretty good share with Guerendo in there because he did look so good, and it is hard to only have one back. Again, next opponents, they get Kansas City. That Kansas City defense looks good. They look really good. So I don't like that. It's also in Kansas. That's even worse. Then they get Dallas. Dallas is a good one. Dallas will have a bye to have a little bit of extra time to prepare, and it is in Dallas. Or no, it's at home. Both of those are at home. So they host Kansas City and they host Dallas. And then they have a bye week.
I'm with you. I don't think Christian McCaffrey is returning anytime soon. I think I heard rumors somewhere that he went and saw a specialist even in Germany, and the other rumors that it's now in both sides. I don't see it him coming back quite yet.
I don't either.
So might be a good pick for the next 2 weeks at least.
Yep.
What about tight ends? The struggle area, and we've lost a couple more this weekend. So Zach Ertz.
Yeah, the tight end struggle continues. All three of these are just dependable 5 to 8 points. I don't think we're going to see, 20 points out of any of them. You might get something great and have a 10 to 12, but I think that's about it. Anyhow, so Zach Ertz, Washington Commanders, he's 75% available. He consistently sees targets and is involved with the game plan for Washington. And some weeks he does more with those targets than other weeks, but he does at least see them from week to week. Next up, they get to play Carolina, Chicago, and then they're at the New York Giants. So I like that Carolina matchup. I don't know that the Commanders have to do a whole lot against the Panthers, but he'll probably still get his 3 to 5 targets, and we'll see what he can do. Maybe it'll be a good week for him, and he'll be more productive with those targets. The next one is kind of the same situation. So Hunter Henry, and I know, Lauren, you love Hunter Henry with the New England Patriots. He's 74% available. He's probably gone in our league because you probably already took him and have him somewhere, I'm guessing. He got a big bump and upgrade in his passing game, like we talked about earlier with Drake Maye stepping into that quarterback role. He too gets the targets. It's just, can he do something with them? And some weeks are better than others. Next up, they've got Jacksonville in London, and then the New York Jets, and then Tennessee.
Then this past week, we had mentioned maybe not playing Dallas Goedert this weekend because it was going to be his first week back, and then he was injured again. So Philadelphia has a new tight end that is probably available. I'm seeing 100% availability usually.
I think so. Yeah, because everyone was playing Dallas Goedert. So Grant Calcaterra should be available in your leagues. And when Dallas Goedert left, Calcaterra played the rest of the game. We don't know how long Goddard's going to be out. He now has a hamstring injury, and we see those hamstring injuries linger and linger and linger and just not go away and then get re-aggravated. So Calcaterra could be a really good one to stash away, and you should be able to play him. I mean, we all saw that the Eagles do love the involvement of Dallas Goedert. But I also feel like we saw A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith come back and kind of step into that role as well. Although Jalen Hurts just looked bad. I don't even know what's going on with the Eagles. Jalen Hurts did not look okay, and Saquon Barkley's had 2 bad games in a row, and we just need to have a whole other discussion on what's going on with the Eagles. Or we can just wait for this weekend. Like we already mentioned, they do play the New York Giants. And if Saquon Barkley doesn't just have a day against the New York Giants, I'm going to be super, super worried.
Kind of like your Bijan Robinson comment before this past weekend.
And he did. He had
And
two
then
touchdowns.
Who got a couple of touchdowns?
Yep, he did. But, Algier is still getting 38% of the carries. So I'm still not bought into Bijan. Bijan had a day against the Carolina Panthers. That doesn't make him look that great. Anyhow.
So speaking of the Carolina Panthers, is Andy Dalton a valid quarterback to pick up?
Well, he is this week only because they're playing the Washington Commanders, who are giving up a ton of points to wide receivers and quarterbacks. So if you're in a desperate need this week, you can pick up Andy Dalton. I think it would just be for this week. So pick him up, play him, dump him after that. This is just a, streaming week option. If you're looking for something maybe a little bit more long term and you're okay taking a bit of a risk, hey, we already talked about Drake Maye. We've talked about him, I think, twice now. Let's talk about Drake Maye and the Patriots again. And he's 94% available. I guess, 6% of Patriots fans were already stashing him on the bench knowing he was going to play. So he should be available in most leagues. But I like the unknown element here. Andy Dalton, I know what I'm getting. I know he's going to throw interceptions. He's no fun. I know he's going to have bad weeks. At least Drake Maye provides excitement. And hey, it might work out okay. And again, we've got the Jacksonville game this weekend for him to kind of show us what he's got. And Jacksonville can make quarterbacks look really good. That's for sure. He had 3 touchdown passes this week and 38 rushing yards. We got to see him run a little bit in that loss to Houston. He did throw 2 interceptions and he fumbled the ball, so he's got to learn how to control those turnovers, but he still managed to have over 20 fantasy points, so I like that.
And that was up against Houston.
It was, yeah. Houston just outscored them. They couldn't stop Houston, even a beat-up Houston. Joe Mixon. Who would have thought Joe Mixon? I thought they were going to be passing, and we're just going to run all over. Anyhow, so a couple defenses if you need a streaming defense this week. There's a lot, but there weren't a lot that I liked. There's a lot of options if you just are looking to get by. I think the 2 that I like the best are the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, I'm picking a team that's coming off a week where they gave up 51 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but this week they're hosting the Broncos in New Orleans, and the Broncos aren't nearly as powerful as Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. So I like this game. Bo Nix has thrown 5 interceptions in the last 3 games, and usually when you have a blowout loss like that, you make something a little bit more right, and you're getting a great matchup, and you're going to get to do it at home again. So I think you have to look better. So I like the New Orleans Saints in this week. The other option, New England Patriots again. I don't know. I guess I jumped all over the Patriots bandwagon this week, and hey, they're going to suddenly be great. And maybe not so, but again, they get to play Jacksonville. Yeah, it's in London. They still get to play Jacksonville. And the Jaguars have allowed 15 sacks in their last 4 games. So
and there's been a couple of interceptions there too from Jacksonville.
Yeah. Trevor's throwing a few picks as well. So I like that the Patriots get an opportunity here to have a good game. And just having Drake Maye on the offensive side is probably breathing more life into the defensive side as well. So those are the 2 defenses if you're looking to stream that should be available on rosters or available on the waiver wire.
So that kind of wraps up our waiver wires, who you should be looking for maybe to pick up. Do you want to run through injuries real quick, just in case people might have missed someone going out or might be out longer than we kind of expected?
Yeah, we can do that. You want to do it or you want me to?
I'll kick us off with the Aidan Hutchinson injury. I know that's on the defense side. It's for Detroit. It was a bad one. He's going to be out the rest of the season.
It was ugly. I was glad I didn't realize it was his leg, and I was watching his arm and then found out what happened, and I didn't go back and rewatch it.
That was a good decision. It reminded me a bit of the scene in one of the Harry Potter movies where Potter breaks his arm and then the uh, incompetent professor removes the bones instead of mending the bones. So
Oh, yeah. It sounds pretty awful, and he had to have a rod put in his leg surgically and out 6 to 8 months, so it's really sad. It was fun watching him. It was fun watching that game, but
I hope
hopefully
he has a speedy recovery and or at least can
yeah,
get back to some enjoyable things sooner.
yeah, definitely. We've got a
This has
list of
also been the season
concussions.
of yeah, it's
Yeah,
been the season of concussions.
it has. So we saw Marvis Harrison Jr. leave the Arizona Cardinals game with a concussion. Uh, Data says he'll miss week 7, maybe return week 8, but we also saw Malik Nabers, who got a concussion a couple weeks ago, we thought was going to play this week, and he sat out an extra week. So I do wonder if they're just being a little bit extra cautious with these rookies that we expect a lot out of, particularly, and giving them some extra time to heal, which is fine. So we've got Malik Nabers, didn't get the concussion this week. He's still on our list because he from the previous week. Then we have Chris Olave, New Orleans wide receiver, also left with a concussion.
I'm surprised we're not seeing more of the guardian caps in the game yet. I know we saw one I think week 1, but we never really saw it again and
Yeah, they haven't been popular. I don't know. They look
no.
kind of strange, and it just looks like you would tip over. But I wonder if there's a way we can get one to try on.
Mhm.
uh, some more injuries. We already talked about this one. Jayden Reed, wide receiver, Green Bay Packers, left with an ankle injury. He did finish the game. He left. He came back. We saw a lot of that too this weekend. Left, came back, and his status should be monitored this week for how he's going to do. Dontavian Wicks, however, left that game quickly, did not come back with a shoulder injury, and he's likely to miss multiple weeks.
On the running back side, we mentioned this Jordan Mason, running back with San Francisco, probably out this week with a minor injury, target week 8 return. Then we also have Travis Etienne with on the Jacksonville Jaguars hamstring issue. Left with a hamstring issue, already battling a shoulder injury. Tank Bigsby was already doing really well and getting more time, so hopefully you grabbed Tank last week. Maybe if you would be another option if maybe you could cross your fingers and he would magically be on your waiver wire.
This is true. And then we saw another ankle injury with James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals in the Packers game. He left, and then it was kind of weird. You saw him getting taped up, but then he didn't come back. But now the coach is saying, "Oh, he's fine. It was a game script that changed, and we didn't need him in on the plays that we were executing because they were down and they were having to pass the ball." So maybe it was nothing, but it's something to definitely keep your eye on this week if you do have James Conner, which I do. So I've got to figure out what's going on with him this week or decide if I'm going to just move on and pick up somebody else because the last couple weeks have been hard. The Cardinals are just, I don't know, they're kind of out there. I don't know what they're doing. Some weeks they look like they're great, like when they beat the 49ers, and then other weeks they look like they have no idea what they're doing.
Well, and now they have a wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. and James Conner both out.
Yeah. Yeah, so
So
we'll see what they're going to come up with this week to do.
and then we have a
Another
series of hamstring injuries.
yeah, the hamstrings, ankles, I guess that's pretty much all the body parts at this point. We've got the head, shoulders, hamstrings,
Ankles,
and
hamstrings.
ankles. We could probably make a song out of that.
The football injury song.
Yeah, there you go. We're gonna have to work on that. Maybe we can ask AI to help us out a little bit. So, Jerome Ford left the Browns game against the Eagles this weekend with a hamstring injury, which was sad because I had to play him, and then I got like 3 points, and I'm gonna lose that matchup too because of I played both James Conner and Jerome Ford this week, so it was a bad week in fantasy for me. anyhow, he'll be out a few weeks. We know that those hamstrings take a bit. So, he's going to miss probably 1 or 2 weeks, if not 3 or 4, I would say. It's kind of interesting because Nick Chubb is set to come back next week, which I think we're all excited that Nick Chubb is coming back, that he will get to run again. I don't know that we'll see him that much. So we could have talked a bit about picking up Deontay Foreman. Not my favorite pickup. And we'll see how Chubb does. But the Browns just look like little dumpster fire as well, that we're still trying to figure out what's going on with the Browns and they're just Deshaun Watson experiment. So I'll just leave that alone. But I'm excited that Nick Chubb's going to be back. With the next hamstring injury, Tyjae Spears with the Tennessee Titans. Again, Titans are losing, although Tony Pollard's done a decent job. So I like Tony Pollard in some leagues. If you need a running back, he's probably taken, though, because Tyjae Spears will be out multiple weeks and won't be sharing with him anymore. They had kind of already gone to Tony Pollard, though, the Titans had. So we'll see. And then we've got Dallas Goedert, which we already talked about with that hamstring injury, probably out multiple weeks as well.
So that wraps us up for known injury news as of this Monday afternoon. I hope we don't have more. I hope by later in the week we just have less, but we'll see what happens.
I hope
Keep
so
our
too.
eyes
I hope
out.
it's not like this week where we got thrown some real curveballs this week. People are fine, then people aren't fine, particularly the Colts, where, oh, hey, Anthony Richardson is looking good. He's practicing. We think he's going to play. And then get up Sunday morning and Anthony Richardson is going to be active, but he's going to be our third quarterback and we're going to play Joe Flacco. And then an hour later, he's inactive. So that was kind of crazy. And hopefully we just know who's going to play and don't get thrown a lot of curveballs this week by people suddenly getting injured.
I feel like for some of these, we'll just plan for them being injured. And then if you can put them in last minute right before the game, great. If you can't, plan for it. It's a good week to head to the waiver wire.
To the waiver wire, get those picks in.
Good luck getting players you aim to pick up.
Yeah. And don't forget to go on over to our website, sign up for our email list so you don't miss an episode. And our website is fangirlfootball.com.